Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, Cyril Gerald Quinn, on this 22nd of May, 2019, as I discuss the world of sports and pop culture. As always, we are streaming live from my YouTube my YouTube channel. You can catch the show video as well. Probably, I want to say later on tonight. I'm trying to get that out, in the 10:30 to 11 o'clock clock range. And again, we're all over the place. Apple.itunes.com, Real Deal Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify. We're everywhere. So be on the lookout for those for the podcast through those various platforms. A lot to talk about tonight as we catch our breaths from the NBA playoffs. Of course, it's an off night thanks to what transpired on Monday when Golden State swept the Portland Trailblazers. Game 5 tomorrow, Milwaukee, Toronto. That series has now been evened at 2 by the Toronto Raptors. Again, we'll talk more about that as they head into a critical Game 5 back in Milwaukee. But we're going to begin with the Golden State Warriors because I think there are times in life where things are happening and you don't really gain perspective in the moment. You it's happening, and age has something to do with this in terms of course, you're going to be able to see more, see things clearer as you get older than you would as a teenager or a young child. But with Golden State, if you're a fan of basketball, I don't care if you hate the Warriors. I don't care if you think that KD playing for them is unfair. I don't care if you don't like Steph Curry or you don't like Klay Thompson. If you don't like Draymond Green. You have to respect and appreciate what they're doing. This is 5 straight appearances in the finals in the Western Conference. Okay. And I think what's getting lost about what the Warriors are doing is we focus too much on their talent. Like, sure, we know they have four future Hall of Famers. Andre Iguodala, one of the great role players slash glue guys in NBA history. We understand that. But this series, or these past 6 games, going back to, I would say, Game 5 again with in the Western Conference semifinals with Houston. This team has shown character, grit, heart. They've shown their championship medal, and again, you can love or hate them. You can hate them, but you have to respect it. They're doing the little things, the dirty things, uh, making all the dirty plays as far as diving for loose balls, taking, you got bench guys taking charges. You got Kevon Looney going out there and making plays, getting rebounds, blocking shots. So you have to respect how hard it is to win in this league. And that team knows how to. This team knows how to win. They flat out know how to win, and that knowing how to win goes beyond talent in any sport. The Patriots haven't always had the best teams per se, man for man, player for player. Yes, they've been coached the best, but they know how to win. They know how to win. And again, we could talk about their talent. They are not Their talent level right now is probably at its lowest point. I can make a case since 2015 when they almost lost to Cleveland, when they were pushed by a one-man band with Cleveland with LeBron James. Because Steph Curry wasn't Steph Curry yet. He won the MVP. He was an All-Star, won the MVP that year, but he wasn't a iconic, legendary player yet, which he is right now. Clay, again, All Star wasn't an All Star at in 2015. He wasn't an All Star level. He was good. He's very good. He was very good. He wasn't the Klay Thompson he is right now. Make a case that Draymond pretty much. I feel like Draymond peaked 2016, 2017. He's back to what he right now. He's back to where he was at during 2016. I think 2016 was peak Draymond. Draymond was very good in 2015. He wasn't great. Right now he's playing great. But what this team is showing you is they, you know, they come off a sweep against Portland, which was a very strange series to begin with. Anytime a team that's gotten swept loses, leads most of the way. Like Portland led 101 minutes to Golden State's 83. So a very strange series. Portland just couldn't close. But when you get with Golden State, when you know how to win, it doesn't matter if you're down 15 in the third, in the fourth quarter, or in the second half. It doesn't matter if you lose Kevin Durant. It doesn't matter if you lose Andre Iguodala. I mean, think about this. There were people who, when they lost Kevin Durant, said that they wouldn't forget about winning a championship. Said that they wouldn't get past the Houston series, despite the fact that they were up 3 games to 2 and had Game 7 in their home building against a Houston team that had yet to prove that they can win in a big spot at this level. At worst, I said that the championship was up for grabs. I did post that on Facebook that when Kevin Durant went down with the calf injury, at the time, no, we didn't know what the injury was, but it turned out to be the strained calf. I did say that the championship was up for grabs, but Golden State was included in that conversation. Yeah, I mean, you have people out there saying there's no way that they can win a championship. And I'm like, well, hold on here, hold on. So, out of the remaining teams, they're the only team that has, as a core, won a championship, and they still have 3 All-Stars plus Andre Iguodala. You can't you can't win with that. I'm confused. So again, you gotta give them. You have, whether you want to, whether it kills you, whether it bothers you, you have to give that team credit and stop using this lazy narrative. Well, they have the most talent. Let me let you in on a little secret. I've seen many years in sports where the most talented teams don't always get it done. It's not automatic that the most talented team is going to win. It's not. I think it's at this point. I think at this point, in regards to Steph Curry, and again, they haven't won the championship yet, but he's coming off a series where he probably had his best individual playoff series of his career. Um, like, to me, and I was starting to think about this even before this series started, about where I would rank him as far as all time greats, and where he belongs. And I thought this beforehand. I think that he's the second best point guard of all time. I really do. I right now I don't think there's any question. Again, I don't think he ever eclipses Magic. Like, I think he would have to win 6 or 7 championships to eclipse Magic. Magic just 6'9", won the championship as a rookie, changed the game. But the impact that Steph Curry has on a game, even when he's not making shots, cannot be ignored. You realize that a defense has to attain has to be aware of where he's at all times once he crosses half court, and that puts pressure on defenses that just eventually wear teams out mentally, physically as well, and more importantly mentally, trying to chase that guy around, trying to rotate off this player, rotate off that player. It takes team. It will destroy a team within trying to game plan, not even game plan, but trying to execute defensively, guarding Golden State. and he is the number one reason for that. His impact on a game, even when he doesn't score, again, cannot be ignored. And I think right now he, as a leader, you look at how that, they had again, that game four was telling. They could have easily went and said, you know what, they got this one. Portland has it. It's game four. We'll get them back and go into state. Game five, we're good. Steph was like, nah, it's not happening tonight. Not gonna happen. I'm gonna, along with Draymond Green, I'm gonna will this team uh, to a sweep. We're gonna be well rested for the finals, waiting for whoever comes out of the East. I'm gonna close this. That's what champions do. That's what iconic players. That's what all-time great players do. Steph Curry is a all-time great right now. He's a legit top 20 player, top 20 of all time right now. Legitimately, he's top 20, and climbing by the game. This series was not about Portland. Again, lazy arguments. Well, Damian Lillard and McCollum and didn't come up, didn't do anything, and so on. And we can point. Portland wasn't even supposed to be here. It wasn't supposed to be in the Western Conference Finals without Nurkic. Nurkic was their second best player. If you didn't watch Portland, and just one of these fans that just looked at the stats and box scores, yeah, you will see McCollum average more points. But as far as impact, defense, Nurkic was their second best player, without question. Now McCollum, of course, has played well for the most part in the playoffs. Obviously saved Portland in Game 7 against Denver, but they missed Nurkic. Now maybe Nurkic could have got on one game in this series. I don't think Nurkic is I don't think even without Kevin Durant, I don't believe that Nurkic changes the dynamic of the outcome of this series that dramatically. I just don't see it. But again, understand what you are watching with Golden State. You are watching a historically great basketball team that plays the game the right way. They move the ball. They play for each other. Now, you can hate and respect at the same time. I hated the Bulls, but you know what? At the end of the day, the '90s Bulls, I had to respect the fact that, you know what, man, they just won 6 championships in 8 years, two three-peats. At a certain point, you just gotta tip your hat. I mean, I don't care about the talent. They accumulated that talent through drafting. They caught a couple breaks, took advantage of the breaks. That tends to happen in life. Successful people, successful organizations, they tend to catch the breaks. It's not by accident. Again, and this is not even about Kevin Durant. We need stuff to talk about, so we're gonna focus on KD, better with him, better without him. They're not better without him. That's just dumb. If you're saying that Golden State is better without Kevin Durant, then you don't know what the hell you're talking about. But they're good enough to win without him. That's how deep they are in talent at up top. That's how top heavy they are in talent. When you have multiple Hall of Famers, when you have a spare MVP, yes, you can lose one MVP and have another. They have a guy. They have Steph Curry, two-time MVP. They have Andre Iguodala, who's a Finals MVP. Draymond Green, former Defensive Player of the Year, was second team All Defense this year. In an off year, by the way, for him defensively. And don't think for 1 second that this team does not wants to prove that they can win, wants to prove again that they can win without Kevin Durant. And sure, they're going to say all the right things, like, hey, we want Kevin to be healthy. We need him for the finals. These guys are competitors. Deep down, they want to say, you know what? Y'all don't think we can win without Kevin Durant? You talking about our bench? Watch us. Watch us. Steph, Dre, Andre Iguodala, Clay. We won 73 games, and we're within you know, who knows, NBA suspend a Draymond Green suspension of winning back-to-back championships. A Kyrie Irving 3-point shot of winning back-to-back championships within an eyelash of being back-to-back. So again, appreciate greatness. Again, once this thing is done, like when Kevin Durant leaves, Golden State will be fine. They'll be up there amongst the contenders, but they'll be amongst 4 or 5 other contending teams around the league. Okay, they'll be slight favorites. They will not be prohibited favorites. There won't be runs of multiple championships. Maybe they win next. Maybe they lose next year, win the following year. So another team comes along. That's how the NBA works, per se. When it comes to these dynasties, again, once their dynasty is over, I would venture to say you will not see another one like this. Who knows? Because there just not that many great organizations right now who are capable of putting together teams that can last this long. It's just not. It's not that much. There's not that many great coaches, to be honest with you, in the NBA right now. The dynamic of how the game, not so much how the game is played, but just how players with the super teams and how much control these agents have, and just things have changed since Golden State even started this run back in 2013. I would say 2013 when they first made the playoffs and lost to San Antonio in the second round. This is one of the great runs in NBA history. Period. They're gonna win 4 championships in 5 years, 3 straight. It's going to happen. Because out of the remaining 3 teams, they're the only ones that know how to win at this level. And that's all due respect to Toronto and all due respect to Milwaukee. I enjoyed watching this series. I respect both of those teams a lot, more so than any Eastern Conference team, in a while. And Cleveland has some good teams. 2016, 2017 Cleveland teams were very good teams. But I respect these teams because both of them had to battle. I think the competition's better. Toronto wins in one of the 7-game series. You see what Milwaukee did to Boston when everybody loved Boston coming into the season, despite their dysfunction. And I've frankly enjoyed this series, but they're running into both of those teams. One of those teams are going to run into history, and they're going to be on the losing end. As far as Toronto, Milwaukee, give Toronto a lot of credit. I thought Milwaukee could wrap this up in 5, especially after Game 2. Thought Milwaukee blew a golden opportunity in Game 3 to just put that series away. But Milwaukee has more talent. Toronto is tougher. If you heard Kyle Lowry's interview at post game on the court, not in terms of when he was at the podium, he said they felt us tonight. And what he was saying was, you know what, our physicality bothers them. That's what he was actually saying. Now I'm not saying Milwaukee is a soft team. They're not soft. But the only way Toronto is going is going to win this series is through physicality. Now it doesn't hurt that their bench, that they get almost 50 points out of their bench. That doesn't hurt either. But it's going to be through physicality and defense that they win this series. And again, I still think Milwaukee's going to win in 7. I picked it in 6 at the beginning. I think Milwaukee is learning how to win. They're learning how to win. I mean, Toronto actually has more winning experience as far as guys who have been further in the playoffs than Milwaukee does. I mean, Kawhi and Danny Green have won championships. or a championship, been in the finals twice. Ibaka's been in the finals, been in multiple conference finals. Kyle Lowry's been in a couple conference finals. So Toronto has more championship and playoff experience than Milwaukee does, but Milwaukee has better players. Milwaukee is getting is going to have to get some out of their point guard position. Bledsoe, because Bledsoe right now is killing them. I think it has to get to a point to where if I'm, you know, if I'm Coach Bud, I have to go to George. I have to go to George Hill. To me, Brogdon, his conditioning should be decent at this point. He's played. He's got in a number of games now. Played at the end of the Boston series. I feel like I should be able to stretch him out more with the minutes, but they're getting nothing out of Bledsoe. You cannot depend on Eric Bledsoe even as your third best player. You can't depend on him if you want to win a championship. I think between Brogdon and George Hill, they're gonna have to find a way to kind of like put Bledsoe aside. I know Bledsoe still plays good, nice, good defense. He made first team amazingly. He made first team all defense. And I know he's a good defensive player, but I didn't see first team all defense. But whatever. He's killing them right now. He's killing them. But again, I still think Milwaukee wins this series. I don't want to hear anything. And again, he has not made any excuses. But I don't want to hear another word about Kawhi Leonard's fatigue or Kawhi Leonard's his condition. Kawhi Leonard missed 16 games this year. Load management. The Toronto physical training staff has been praised for how they handle Kawhi. So I don't, after he plays 52 minutes, okay, cool. That's what you're supposed to do as the best player on the team, as a guy who's regarded as one of the best players in the world in the playoff game, with your team's season basically, season on the line. And he did what he had to do. He played well. He played great in that game. But I can't. Again, he has not made any excuses whatsoever. He's not. He's not that type of player. He's not. But I don't even want to hear anybody making excuses for him, at all. I don't want to hear it. This guy should be well rested. Didn't played 9 games last year. He should be well rested. He should have the freshest legs out of anybody playing major minutes between the two teams right now, without question. But it's not even an issue from that standpoint. So you have game 5 tomorrow back in Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee will win that game. I think Toronto will win game 6, and then we'll, have a war in game 7 where I still will give Milwaukee a slight edge. Again, I think Milwaukee has more talent. I don't think the gap is that big, to be honest with you. I mean, again, Toronto has some feisty veterans. They have some tough players. Gasol started making some shots. Again, he's another guy that has been in the conference finals before, with his time during his time in Memphis. So again, Toronto. Yeah, I'm not going to change my pick I picked Toronto before the playoffs to get to the finals, but I feel like Milwaukee's the better team. But before this series, I picked Milwaukee to win in 6. So I'll stay with that pick. I'll push it another game, push it an extra game, and go Milwaukee in 7. But certainly looking forward to game 5 tomorrow back in Milwaukee. So Toronto now has its signature fan in Drake, who it's not enough for Drake just to go to the game, stand up, talk to players. Now he's got to grab the coach. So if you didn't see it, Drake, during the course of the game, the game is actually going on. This is not during a hub. This is not during a timeout. This is not before halftime. Nick Nurse is actually coaching. Drake comes up, with the shoulder, with a shoulder grab. Like, Drake, what the fuck are you doing? Just be a fan, man. Just be a fan. See, here's the issue with Drake. Drake, when you do something like that, you're trying to be a part or bigger than the action. You're trying to be a part of the action. You're trying to be bigger than the game. I don't care how many albums you sold. Don't care that you're the biggest rap star in the world, which he is. No one is there to watch you no one's there to watch you on the sideline or watch you touch Nick Nurse. Those fans are there to watch a basketball game. And shout out to the crowd. The crowd was great in Toronto. They were you can feel them through the TV. They were tremendous in that game. As a viewing audience member, I'm there to watch a game. I don't care about Drake. I got plenty of time to listen to Drake albums on spare time or whatever. I don't like. Here's the problem with Drake compared to Spike Lee or compared to Jack Nicholson. Spike Lee loves basketball through and through. So when he goes to a Knicks game or travels to see the Knicks play, which I'm sure he hasn't because they've sucked for the last couple of decades or so. But when he goes to a Knicks game, he's not going as Spike Lee. He's going as a basketball fan who is rooting to see his team win or lose. Like if I like you can disagree with you're gonna hate Spike Lee's last 5 movies or whatever. That's fine. But I feel like I can have a basketball conversation with Spike Lee for multiple hours because he loves basketball. Same thing with Nicholson. Jack Nicholson is not there smiling for the camera. He's already world famous. Yeah, he has multiple Oscars. He's there rooting for the Lakers. He loves the Lakers. It's not about him being Jack Nicholson when he's has those courtside seats. He's there to root for his team. He's there to root as a fan of the team. Drake is going to Toronto games to be a celebrity. And again, if you want to try to talk to Giannis, whatever, you want to try to make fun of his free throws, I don't even care. Troll on Twitter, all that bullshit. I don't, that part, no one cares about that part. But when you touch the coach, that's taking it too far. And the NBA should say something. Now, if your coach Bud from Milwaukee, just coach your team. You have enough issues to worry about other than Drake touching Nick Nurse, grabbing Nick Nurse by the shoulders. You have bigger issues than that. He didn't touch you, so I wouldn't even worry about it if I'm the Milwaukee coach. But again, if you're Drake, man, I'm not even gonna say sit down. I'm just saying, just don't touch the coach. Just don't try to be a part of the action. We say this to fans who are not celebrities all the time. You go to the game, you root, you can boo. Don't try to be a part of the action. Be a fan. Just be a fan and just enjoy yourself. Again, he'll never be Spike Lee as a fan. He'll never be Jack Nicholson. Period. So I think I think it's like, and Drake has been doing, getting the arguments with Kendrick Perkins, that nonsense. No one cares about that part. But you start touching coaches, really? You can this is during. If you would have saw it live, you was like you couldn't believe. First of all, anybody else would have been dragged out in a taser. Number one. So if I'm Nick Nurse, and again, Nick Nurse played it cool. You know what? I'm engaged. I was so focused on the game. I didn't feel him touching me. I didn't. Nick Nurse doesn't want any focus taken off him, off his team, and onto something else. Or doesn't want his team to be distracted by something that he could just brush aside. And he did. He handled it straight professional. He did it exactly the way publicly. Privately, I'm saying, Drake, don't ever put your hands on me ever again in life. Privately, I'm like, Drake, I would get it to his peoples. Don't ever touch me again, ever. Publicly, though, I'm saying, you know what? We focus on game 5. My guys ready to play, so on and so on. Privately, I'm saying, Drake, don't ever put your fucking hands on me. Like, basically, nah, we're not cool. We're not, no. During the game, like, we shaking hands after the game, before the game. Hey, you come up during the game, you gonna grab my shoulders? Nah, this just wouldn't happen. So, again, you go to the game to be, you go to the game not to become, not to be a part of the story or a part of the action. You go to the game to enjoy the game, root for your team, yell, boo, whatever. Drake trying to he's trying to be the signature fan for in terms of celebrities. Remember, Jack Nicholson's getting a little old. Is getting older. The Knicks have stunk, so Spike isn't as relevant as he once was as a fan because the Knicks have been so bad. So Drake is trying to fill, if you want to call it a void, of the top celebrity fan. So, you know, 25 minutes after the 9 o'clock hour on this edition of the Real Deal Podcast. Of course, Game of Thrones is over. It wrapped up on Sunday with episode 6, season 8, and a lot of reactions from fans. You know, you had cast members coming out. You had celebrities. You know, Aaron Rodgers. You know, puts his 2 cents in. Here's what I'm gonna say about Game of Thrones, and early in the season, I think I know for a fact I said this on the podcast. Maybe it might be my last podcast, that it was moving too fast, that they were putting too much stock in the action sequences, battle scenes versus the story. And I'm gonna say why I was wrong from that standpoint, and why I feel like this series is the greatest series of all time. Number one, the last 2 seasons you have 13 episodes, right? First 6 seasons you're doing 10 episodes a season, so you're missing 7 episodes that should have been that you should have had the last 2 seasons. You're missing 7 episodes. That's a lot of content. There was only so much that they could do, Benioff and Weiss, with 13 episodes in 2 seasons. Now you want to say, hey, Benioff and Weiss had one foot out the door. Star Wars, they're going to be probably working on that as we speak. If you want to say that and criticize them for that, then so be it. You want to knock HBO, say, you know what, HBO, they should have gotten some other showrunners. They could have gotten some other showrunners who would be committed to doing 10 episodes for the last 2 seasons. Fine, you can make that argument if you want to. You'd be perfectly within your right to say that. But consider this: for the time that they had, 13 episodes in 2 seasons. I don't know what else could they have done, to be honest with you. Remember that content. There are those. If you ever read one of those books, and luckily I haven't, because I bought the books about 5 years ago. I want to say 20, maybe more than that. I bought the books about 5 or 6 years ago. I haven't read any of them because I didn't want to be spoiled, or didn't want to subconsciously compare the book to the television series. I will, now that the series is done, I will go and attempt, and well, not attempt, and read the books. But that is a lot of content in those books. It's a lot of stories. You have a lot of characters. On average, the books run from anywhere from 694 pages to 1,000 pages. So pacing was going to be fast. And some of the criticism I heard was about how Daenerys' character turned out, her fate. Like, did anybody realize that she was the daughter of the Mad King? So no one saw this coming. No one, this was a turn that is like, hey, it'd be like Mother Teresa, you know, stealing from homeless people. Like, I feel like if you didn't see this coming, and I don't know if you were just in denial or you just wasn't paying attention. And to me, I thought they did a great job of depicting how power can corrupt your heart, your mind, your soul. Power can do that to where the wrong people, like certain people, should not be in power. Daenerys should not have been at the head of the Seven Kingdoms. Period. She just shouldn't. She was not. Jon Snow should have killed her. And listen, and like I should have said this beforehand, but if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, you can feel free to not even listen to this part of the podcast. Spoiler alert. But I had no problem with that. I don't see how you could have a problem with her character dying. I don't. I just don't. I don't understand it from that standpoint. Now there's some things you want to talk about where the Sully would have killed Jon Snow, or how did Tyrion go from basically being beheaded to the hand of the king. Okay, you want to do that kind of picking, sure. But as far as the pacing of the seasons, of the last two seasons, and the story, they had no other choice. It was going to move fast with 13 episodes and two seasons. Now, the reason why I say this show is the greatest show of all time, okay, and mind you, you're talking to somebody who has a special place in his heart for The Wire, period. But Game of Thrones has the best balance of artistry and entertainment that any show in history has ever had, even more so than The Sopranos. The first six seasons of Game of Thrones are A plus, A minus, and if you say anything less, then we just can't even have a conversation. The first six seasons are A seasons, top notch television at its best in terms of entertainment and art and storytelling. Period. Now, you want to say the last two seasons don't compare to the first six? Fine. They're not as good as the first six. But again, you didn't get 10 episodes in the last two seasons. 10 episodes per season in the last two seasons. So I cannot even gauge the last two seasons versus the previous six. It's like comparing Michael Jordan with the Wizards versus Michael Jordan with the Bulls. Do you really want to compare Michael Jordan at age 38, 39 versus when he was in his prime, winning six championships in 8 years? And again, Michael Jordan Wizards, I was fine with Michael Jordan as a Washington Wizard. He was one still, even at his, you know, in the Geritol part of his career, he still was one of the top 15 players in the league. To be honest with you, 15, 20 players in the league. Still had, put up very good numbers. Not bad, not decent numbers. I mean, he's dropping 20 a game. And again, these last two seasons were not bad. Okay, like The Godfather 3 was not a bad movie, but it just wasn't on the level of the first two. And there's a difference. And again, if I say artistry, entertainment, there has not been a show that could walk that line at the level of Game of Thrones. Ever. Again, The Wire was about artistry. The Wire is not for entertainment value. There's a reason why the ratings were low. It was too real to be at a high level of entertainment. Like, I love The Wire because the Wire is just real life. And then, they had a number of just the writing was just as good. I mean, the writing of The Wire is the best ever. Period. The writing, just pure. We're talking about just pure writing. The Wire is the greatest written show of all time, in my opinion. But again, we're in a business when it comes to television of entertaining. And there's a reason why you see that Game of Thrones was setting these records in the last two seasons with their ratings records. Now again, great ratings don't mean that the content is great. But don't mean that the show doesn't make the show the greatest of all time. I'm not saying that. But you cannot ignore the entertainment factor of Game of Thrones, in particular these last two seasons. Now looking at this season, look, Looking at this past season, I said, I said earlier in an earlier podcast that the content and I didn't think the writing was up to par, and it wasn't as in comparisons to the previous the first 6 seasons or even last season for that from that matter. But you know what? I was glued every Sunday night, glued to the television at 9 p.m. Even to the point, let me tell you, even to the point to where I had I had Game 5, it's Game 7, a couple weeks ago. Game 7 of the Sixers series, Sixers Toronto, the Kawhi four bounce game. I DVR'd that game. I was watching. I think it came on at 7. I knew that it was going to cut into Game of Thrones. So when Game of Thrones came on at 9, paused it and watched Game of Thrones. I think this was the Bells, might have been the Bells episode. Yeah, this was the Bells episode. Okay, that's no, I've never done that for any show ever. Playoff Game 7. Like, so again, I'm not one of these throne fanatics who are visiting, going to Ireland, look at Ireland or Belfast, looking at Thrones artifacts and these trips. I mean, you got some guys, people out there, and if that's how you choose a vacation, if that's how if you're a fanatic like that, that's fine. That doesn't no problem with that. But I'm not. That's not me. I don't own any outside George, the books that have been written by George R. R. Martin. I don't own any Thrones T-shirts or nothing like that. But what I'm telling you is that, again, I've never seen a show be able to balance art, entertainment, and artistry. I've never seen it. It was brilliant how they were to walk that line. It really was. And the criticism. Listen, criticism is a part of it. Like people criticize. I don't have a problem with the criticism. I'm just saying some of the stuff is like, well, I thought they should have should have done this with this character. I thought they should have did this with that character. Do you know how many characters? Like, I didn't want Omar to die on the wire. I didn't want Chalky to die on the wire. But you know what? It was in the best interest of the show. I didn't want Avon Barksdale to go to jail. But you know what? Drug dealers either die or go to jail. That's real life. Okay, and it's not about what you want as a viewer as far as a character goes. Like, yeah, you can't write. Yeah, like writers can't think about what the audience wants in terms of a character. It wouldn't be. They wouldn't be writers. They would be unemployed writers if they actually cared about our opinions about characters and what direction the characters should go in. And again, I don't understand. I don't understand how people are just enraged as far as Daenerys, what how Daenerys' character ended up. I don't get. I really don't understand it. I don't. This was coming. You should have saw this coming a mile away. She's a Targaryen. I mean, it's, but it's gonna be interesting to see how how this show is viewed upon in terms of historic perspective. Um, Again, I have it as the greatest show. Is to me, is the greatest show ever based on that fact. Agree or disagree with me based on that fact of being able to balance those. Is a very tough balance. I don't care how brilliant the show is to find that line of artistry and entertainment. I mean, you look at Mad Men. I would go Mad Men was to me pure art. The Wire to me was pure art. Sopranos was a lower level of that as in comparison to Game of Thrones. What else? Who else is up there? Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad was close, but I still think Breaking Bad, the entertainment value. I think the entertainment value kind of out. Breaking Bad is a good. Breaking Bad was close. Maybe I would even put Breaking Bad closer to Game of Thrones from that balance, even more so than The Sopranos. But feel free to disagree. It's fine. I think most people will disagree with the perspective. Um, I think you. I think the one thing you have to understand is what like going into this season, and I didn't do a good job of this when I gauged the season at the beginning. Is understanding that they were only going to have 6 episodes. So, is it fair to compare a 6 episode season to a 10 episode season? Is it fair to compare a 7 episode season to a 10 episode season? So I think people, myself included, had to recalibrate their expectations of what this season, what was going to, not so much what was going to happen, but how fast this season was going to move. So they're my thoughts on Game of Thrones. Um, I don't have a real interest in a Arya spinoff. I really want to see, and I just ordered the book Fire and Blood. That came out last November about the story of the Targaryens, and I have an interest in that, and also have an interest in like how the Stark and Lannister. I think there's some background and some history behind the whole Stark and Lannister rivalry. I have an interest in that. So if they made a prequel about those houses and how certain houses got started, that would pique a prequel would definitely pique my interest from that standpoint. But I mainly want to know, want to have a better understanding of the Targaryen history. So hopefully, again, they're gonna do. Listen, it is a cash cow, so they're gonna do something within the next 3, 4, 5 years without question. Maybe HBO's coming out with a movie, a Deadwood the movie. Maybe HBO will come out with a movie. Um, a Game of Thrones movie. But I mean, probably the next 4 to 5 years. I don't see anything coming in the near future. But yeah, it'll be at least 4 to 5 years, if not even longer. But they're gonna do some stuff with that because it's too popular. I mean, it really is. Game of Thrones is like the Drake of television. I mean, Drake's not the greatest rapper of all time, but you know what? You get them numbers. He gets numbers. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. As always, thanks for listening to the program, to the podcast. Keeping it real, not keeping it real. Telling it like it is with no apologies. Thanks for listening.